On our broadcast tonight, the gathering at the White House, the president, the professor, and the police officer. What will come out of it? Boiling point in Iran as a day of mourning ends in a police crackdown. Cash for clunkers. They're making deals, driving them off the lot. But is there any downside? Making a difference for the heroes of a tragedy we all saw play out on TV. And we're hearing it yet again from baseball fans. Say it ain't so. Nightly News begins now.
From NBC News World Headquarters in New York, this is NBC Nightly News with Brian Williams.
Good evening. At first, members of the White House press corps thought the president was kidding. You could hear them laughing when he said a few days ago there was talk of having two men come over to the White House for a beer, the Harvard professor who was arrested in his own home and the arresting officer. Time has passed since then. The charges were dropped, but feelings are still raw. The national conversation on race has taken a bit of a racist turn or two en route to tonight's gathering at the White House. The question is, what comes out of this long term? White House correspondent Savannah Guthrie is there covering for us tonight. Savannah, good evening.
Well, good evening, Brian. This might be the most highly anticipated and highly publicized beer ever had at the White House. It just happened, and we can now show you the picture, at least a few moments that White House press cameras were allowed in to capture this beer between Vice President Biden, the president, Sergeant Crowley, and Professor Gates. For most of the time that the press was there, the talking seemed to be between Sergeant Crowley and Professor Gates, while the vice president and the president just listened. They had their beer, some snacks, pretzels, peanuts. Their families are also here and got a tour of the White House, and I'm told that the interaction between these two men was actually quite warm. As you know, the president has said this is not going to be something about an apology, but an opportunity to listen, a teachable moment. And he said earlier today he's frankly fascinated by the fascination with all this, and he doesn't much care for the way the media has been referring to this meeting. Listen.
I noticed this has been called the Beer Summit. It's a clever term, but this is not a summit, guys. This is three folks having a drink at the end of the day, and hopefully giving people an opportunity to listen to each other.
And as I said, the families got to tour the East Wing and the West Wing while this is all going on. And with this, the president hopes to put this issue behind him. Aides here, as well as the president, acknowledged that he kind of fanned the flames when he stepped into this, remarking on it at a news conference last week. He's hoping they can move forward, Brian.
And Savannah, of all the participants at that table, we already know Sergeant Crowley will be talking to the news media later this evening, correct?
We do expect him to do that, to say something to the media. It won't be here at the White House. It'll be over at the AFL-CIO. And in fact, Sergeant Crowley brought a union representative with him, along with his kids and some family members. At this point, we don't expect to hear from Professor Gates, but of course, that could change.
All right. Savannah Guthrie covering for us at the White House tonight. Savannah, thanks. We turn our attention now overseas, specifically Iran. Tensions that have been simmering just below the surface for weeks boiled over today on what was supposed to be a day to remember those who were killed in protests after those presidential elections last month. A lot of people thought they were rigged. Iran is not letting foreign reporters in to cover what's going on there, but our chief foreign correspondent Richard Engel has been following all of it from Beirut. He joins us from there tonight. Richard, good evening.
Good evening, Brian. Iranian security violently broke up demonstrations in downtown Tehran today and blocked opposition leader Mir Hossein Mousavi from addressing the crowds as the dispute over Iran's election seems far from over.
It was supposed to be a day of mourning at Free, but analysts said it was mostly a symbolic gesture.
And the man at the center of this controversy, President Ahmadinejad, seems unfazed by the crackdown. His inauguration is planned for Monday. Brian?
Richard Engel in Beirut for us tonight on the story. In this country, the so-called national pastime, Major League Baseball, is back in the news tonight. And once again, it's for all the wrong reasons. A report that two of the game's biggest names, former Boston Red Sox teammates, tested positive for performance-enhancing drugs back in 2003. One of them goes by a nickname known to all of us baseball fans, Big Papi. Our report tonight from NBC's Rahima Ellis.
2-1 is Jack.
In Boston, the 3-run homer by David Ortiz may stir up as much talk as the latest controversy that's casting yet another shadow over the game. News today that Ortiz and Manny Ramirez, who's now with the LA
No answer.
America's favorite pastime, once again mired in controversy. Rahima Ellis, NBC News, New York.
And now to the Pacific Northwest, where the story tonight is the heat. In parts of the Northwest, heat records are being shattered. In Seattle, to take one, parts of Oregon, temperatures this week are over 100 degrees. Weather Channel meteorologist Mike Seidel is in Seattle for us tonight, where a lot of people are trying to beat the heat at the beach there. Mike, good evening.
Good evening, Brian, and some bad news tonight. We've just learned that one person has died from this heat wave here in King County, Washington. This is the 4th consecutive day. Soaring temperatures have sizzled the Pacific Northwest, making it the hottest July on record.
Too hot, way too hot.
We got air conditioning at the house, in the car, and trying to drink a lot of fluids, stay hydrated.
In Seattle, where temperatures yesterday reached an all-time high of 103, people flocked to water fountains and lakefronts, anything to stay cool.
Swimming a lot and going to friends' houses that have air conditioning.
And they're lining up to get ice cream at Baskin-Robbins.
Anything to get out from the apartment.
At Home Depot, fans and air conditioners sold out, selling 30,000 of them just this week.
As fast as we're putting signs on them, the customers are buying them.
The heat wave brought temperatures 25 degrees above average. Vancouver, Washington had their hottest day on record with 108 degrees. Portland was 106.
The ocean air coming off the Pacific is normally what keeps us cool during the summer. That stopped earlier in the week, and the air mass just got so warm it was able to push us up into those record-breaking temperatures.
This morning, runners got out to the track early in Portland.
Trying to get my workout done before it gets to be 100 degrees.
And the heat also brought out early shoppers at the farmers market.
Get their produce as early as they can, and then they head back to the office before it gets too hot so they can get back in the air conditioning.
And Brian, this evening, 2 pieces of good news. Home Depot expecting another shipment of air conditioning fans tomorrow. And temperatures here in an area where only 15% of homes have air conditioning are going to be cooling off slightly over the next couple of days. Brian?
Hottest July ever where you are, second coldest July ever where we are. Mike Seidel out in Seattle for us tonight. Mike, thanks. In Wall Street today, another big rally, though. It faded going into the closing bell, cutting the day's gains almost exactly in half. Still, the Dow on track for a monster July, the best in 20 years, up just under 84 points on the day. NASDAQ gained 16.5. S&P was up almost 12, getting close to the 1,000 level yet again. When we continue along the way this Thursday night, taking the government's Cash for Clunkers trade-in program for a bit of a test drive. And later, save from a fiery car wreck by strangers. Millions saw the videotape. Now an entire community is rallying around an injured child's family. By now, you may be aware of the government's Cash for Clunkers program. It's supposed to encourage people to turn in their old gas guzzlers for new and more fuel-efficient cars. And so far, it's getting high marks, so much so that auto dealers are asking Congress for more money. The taxpayer subsidy in this could run out after just 1 week. NBC's Chris Jansing has our report.
Enrique Gomez's 10-year-old sedan is a gas guzzler.
8-cylinder. And that's a lot of gas.
This is just the thing to get his family and the economy moving again.
Thank you very much, Enrique.
Chris Jansing, NBC News, La Crescenta, California.
Video of the day comes from the sheriff's office in Plain City, Utah. An erratic driver weaving, blowing through stop signs, speeding up, slowing down. He led the deputy to his own driveway. That's where the chase ended. The suspect exits the vehicle. He's 7 years old. He'd taken the car to avoid having to go to church with his family. No charges were filed. The boy and his parents have discussed the incident privately. They'll do so publicly tomorrow morning on Today. When Nightly News continues tonight, kids from Oregon stuck in China under a swine flu quarantine. The latest on their not so excellent summer vacation. Back now with two quick updates on a story that began this broadcast last night, the predicted quick and rapid spread of swine flu in this country and around the world. The U.S. military considering a plan that could establish regional military teams to assist civilian authorities in the event of a major outbreak of the virus this fall. And in Europe, transportation authorities said today they won't allow airlines to forbid flu patients from flying. An update now on those American students who suddenly found themselves quarantined during a trip to China. Most of them are finally on their way home tonight, but some still must stay behind. NBC's Adrienne Mong has the latest on a dream trip that took a bad turn.
They've spent 13 out of 17 days on their vacation in China in quarantine. But finally, they're NBC News, Beijing.
Today, we learn the names of the 16 people who will this year be awarded America's highest civilian honor, the Medal of Freedom. They include Senator Ted Kennedy, tennis champion and women's advocate Billie Jean King, retired Supreme Court Justice Sandra Day O'Connor, actor Sidney Poitier, and Archbishop Desmond Tutu. You can see the full list of Medal of Freedom recipients on our website, nightly.msnbc.com. Up next here tonight, the heroes who were at the right place at the right time to save a little boy and are still making a difference for his entire family.
Wonderful. A division of NBC News.
Making a Difference. Brought to you by GlaxoSmithKline. Today's medicines, tomorrow's miracles.
We're back and it's time for our Making a Difference report. Millions of people saw the video and knew right away it was a wonder anybody survived. Two Milwaukee brothers risked their lives to pull a mother and her two kids from the flaming wreckage of their SUV. And as our own Kevin Tibbles reports tonight, the call of duty didn't end there.
There's a baby in there! When the SUV carrying 4-year-old David Harper, his mother and baby sister, flipped and burned.
Did someone call 911?
Two brothers, off-duty firefighters. Kevin Tibbles, NBC News, Milwaukee.
Want to let you know David Harper's parents will be live tomorrow morning on Today. That's our broadcast for us this Thursday night. Thank you for being with us. I'm Brian Williams. We hope to see you back here tomorrow evening. Good night.
Sunday, top White House advisor Larry Summers on reviving the economy. When will struggling families see some relief? If it's Sunday.